Hello and welcome. In today's video we're going to do an experiment with router bits, the things that we use to cut out our guitar shapes. Now, I need to explain a couple of things so that you understand what it is I'm talking about. So if you already understand all of these things, just understand that there are people out there who don't understand things and need them explained so that they can also join into building guitars. So don't tell me that I'm talking too much, okay? Because I'm not in the mood for it. Here is a router bit. This is an old one, I'm just using it for an example, so don't think that we'll be using this. But if you look at it, you can see that there are two blades, and there is a little bearing here, and that rides along a template. So for example, here I have a template, and when I route, I'll make sure that the bit goes down into the wood, and the bearing runs along the template. And as long as the the bearing here rides along and is not above or below, whatever I cut into will be copied by the template, because obviously it can't move further in. Obviously, if it's not riding, this will cut into the template. These are called flush trim bits, but there is a different version that you can get that is a little bit more expensive, and it's called a flute router trim bit. It looks like this. And the idea is that if we look at this again, the blades on this are flat and they go across and they are just cutting straight into the wood. And that can create chip outs. And that is basically when it grabs a chunk of wood, it grabs the grain and it pulls it out. So instead of cutting it, it's ripping it out. And if you've seen a lot of my guitar buildings, you know that I've sometimes pointed out, hey, I got a little bit of something going on here. It shouldn't be an issue if you know how to use a router properly, and if you have nice, new, sharp looking, beautiful ones. So not crummy, gross like this. This can't be used for anything. It's going in the bin later, after I've then done this video. But this idea with these, as you can probably see, you can see that they are at an angle. And so the idea is that the upper part of it will slice down from the bearing, and the lower part will slice up towards the bearing, and that wood won't be cut straight into but at an angle, and that will prevent chip outs. And I've seen a lot of videos online, other people using these and showing that they are really good, and so I want to try them out for myself and my own guitar building, because I am a little bit tired of getting chunks of wood flying. I realized that there is a way that you can avoid this, and that is in what direction you're cutting the body. That's what I mean with knowing how to use a router. You have to know how to use the speed, and you have to know in which direction and when to cut how. And for the most part, I'm doing these things correct. But every now and then, you're tired, you've been working a lot, you have a lot of other things on your mind, and you make a mistake. So I have a guitar body that I've cut out here. It's a piece of, it's just a board that I cut out of. It's not something special. I'm forgetting words, so you'll never know what kind of wood it is, but it's not important. This should work on basically any wood. Take that with a grain of salt, because some woods, like wenge for example, are really hard to work with, and that's one of the reasons why you don't see me use that anymore. I have a couple of fretboards left of wenge, but I don't intend to build anything in solid wenge anymore, at least not for a while, because I just feel like the tonal quality and the things you get with it in comparison to how hard it is to work with, it just doesn't make any sense to work with that kind of hardness for guitars. I don't know if these bits will cut that kind of hardness when we're talking about wood, but for most woods I'm pretty sure they would cut just like any other bit. This bit here is a cheap Amazon bit, and I learned a while back when I started building guitars, and I understand that some of you are also building guitars and you might disagree with me and have special brands or things like that you enjoy. And if you do, I'm not telling you to change out what you're doing, but I learned for myself that when it comes to bits, buying expensive bits it doesn't make any sense. It's much better to buy a pack of 10 of the cheaper ones and just burn through them and then buy a new pack. And when I'm down to like my 2 last bits, I buy a new pack of 10. And a pack of 10 of these cost maybe a fraction of what some of the really expensive ones cost. And maybe they would last longer, but they wouldn't last longer if you made a mistake. And making a mistake with a router is something that you're just gonna do. I do it all the time. And yeah. But anyway, this one was more expensive. It wasn't super expensive, you know, and especially not if it works. It's also from Amazon, and it's also a no-brand thing. I think it was about 36, I could be wrong, 36 American dollars, roughly. Take that with a grain of sauce, because we don't, grain of sauce. Take it with a grain of sauce. Take it with a grain of salt. No, take that with a grain of salt, because we don't use American dollars here, but trying to transfer it over, that's roughly what it becomes. Anyway, so the experiment is to ignore everything I know about routing and just put the template on and hog away the excess. I am still gonna do the thing that I think everyone should do, which is try to cut with a comfortable distance around the body. Obviously, it's still a matter of being able to use a tool the correct way. It's just, you shouldn't have to go around. I'll explain it in more detail. I'm trying to not have to talk too much, but anyway, if you have a body like this, you rough cut it out, and then you cut off the excess with a router bit. You're going to see me do this. But with a non-fluted, you would have to make sure you cut in the right order, so that you're walking in the path that will not give you tear out. And you're not supposed to have to do that with one of these flutes. You're supposed to be able to just go around and not care. So that's the experiment. The experiment isn't if this can cut away 2 mils or 5 mils, or if it can just plunge straight through a board, because I feel like that's an irresponsible way of using a router, and it's not what the tool is intended to do. I feel like a lot of people will do that sort of thing, and then best scenario will be that they destroy the bit or the router, and the worst will be that they hurt themselves. And yeah, if you hurt yourself on a router, you're gonna hurt yourself a lot. So try to be mindful of that and be safe. So yes, the experiment today is gonna be cutting out with this flute trim router bit that I have, and then I'll come back and I'll talk about my experience doing it, but you'll get to see me do it, and then we'll talk about like if this is better, if this is something that I'm gonna consider changing over to and do all my body out cutting with or not. I'm probably not going to use it to cut out cavities for pickups and electronics and neck pockets, because I don't feel like that's necessary. It's really hard to get tear out in those sorts of places, unless you do something really strange, like just straight out plunge the router straight in and just start hogging away like a crazy person. Then you might get tear out, but if you're a somewhat sensible, normal person doing things, or at least trying to do things in a somewhat normal way, that shouldn't be an issue. But tear out on the outside of the body where the wood is more exposed is a normal thing that everyone is going to experience, I feel like. But now I've spoken for about 10 minutes, and I know that half of you have clicked off, so only the cool ones are left. Let's jump into cutting out this body and see how it goes. So here we have my template clamped down, and as you can probably see now, there's a gap here. The template lies on a line that I drew out, that hopefully you could see earlier in the video. The seam here aligns with the center line here on both sides, so that when we're done, everything aligns correctly and we have the seam of the two pieces in the right place. It's pretty weirdly and wonky shaped. Maybe you can see it a little bit here. And the idea is the router bit here rides along the template and cuts everything, and we get a flush, nice 90 degrees. So let's try it out and see what happens. And I'm just gonna shrug it away. The router bit doesn't go all the way down, so I'm gonna go from here where I meet up with this clamp all the way around to over here where I meet this clamp. Then I'm gonna have to flip it around and do the other side, but I'll do this side for you and then we'll be back. And yeah, wish me luck, because obviously it's fun if this works. Yeah. need to change the battery. Probably should have checked that before. Okay, that's the first pass. Let's lower this bit a little bit, something like that. And now I'm just gonna try going from here to there, just like that. Just see how much gets destroyed. Okay, let's flip this around and cut the other part out here, and then let's remove this lip. You can see here with the lip there how much of the wood is not correctly cut when you just rough cut it with a jigsaw. But let's clamp this back here down somewhere and do the rest. There we go. Okay, so here we have the body now, and we're gonna inspect it together. There are a couple of things we have to go over as well. So I just want to clarify it because I realize that some people are going to talk about like brands and things like that. The nameless brand thing from Amazon is because that's my standard thing that I use. And so I want to like put it on the same level. Obviously, if I bought like the nicest, most expensive flute bit, I would have an experience that is probably nicer than a brandless, manufactured in China, super cheap thing, obviously. So that's not the comparison that I want to make. I don't even really want to call it a comparison because that's misunderstanding the point. The point is to see if I disregard everything I know about how to route, about like grain directions and things like that, do I still get a nice finish? So that's why I got a bit that was the equivalent of what I've been using. Anyway, here's the body now. And I would say at first glance, this looks like a success. And I would probably say that it is a success because I did this thing off camera, but I want to talk about it. I really went crazy when I was filming. The part you saw me was me really disregarding. I was disregarding speed. I was kind of disregarding safety, which I know I said I shouldn't, but the safety of having control over the tool you're holding just to go sort of wham and get rid of as much as possible. So the lower part here, as you can see, is pretty rough, and we did get tear out. So my question, which is, do you have to disregard how to use a tool with a flush trim bit? The answer is no. If you don't know how to use a trim router, basically, and a flush bit to cut out with a template, this is not going to save you. It is going to make things easier for you, I would say, but it's not going to save you. You need to practice and learn how to do it. You need to know how fast you can go and how smooth you can do this. Because I did that with the upper part, and I got a tiny bit of tear out right here, so it's still not perfect. But the rest looks really nice. So my answer is that I am probably gonna switch over to a flute shape when I cut out the bodies, and I'm probably gonna keep doing it the way I've always done, which is follow the grain direction, cut in the right angle, cut at the right speed, both the speed of the router but also the speed of how fast I'm moving it. It's just going to be an extra security to make sure I don't get nasty tear out. And, you know, and if you get tear out, you learn how to fix it. And you go from there. And you try to not beat yourself up over every little mistake you do, because when you look back at all the mistakes you've done, you can smile to yourself a little bit and you can think, but I fixed all of those. And then you don't get angry that you messed up. Because, you know, you'll mess up again. And when it comes to getting tear outs with the guitar body, I've been building since 2009. And look, I got tear out today as well. So yeah, also, bit is new. When I'm recording this video and you're watching me, this is the first time I've used this bit. It's brand new out of its package. So another question that will arise from this and that we have to acknowledge is, how will it hold up? In 2 years after routing 4 other bodies, because I work so slowly, maybe it will do nothing but tear out, and maybe the other one will be better in the long run. Obviously, switching out your bits and making sure you have sharp ones is a different topic, but I do want to mention that it's also a question of like how long do they last? So yeah, I can't answer that question now, but it can be a topic for a future video if you guys are interested in knowing, like, okay, it's been 2 years since you made this video, how's the bit holding up? We can talk about it then. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. I feel like I learned something, actually. I actually didn't think that these sorts of bits were like a real thing that you should actually care about, but I think you should make it work together with your skill of knowing how to use a router. So if you've never used a router before, if you've never built guitar before, and you're thinking like, I need to have this in order to start building guitars, I would suggest you start with the cheaper bits and you buy this later, because the cheaper bits will force you to learn how to do it properly, because there's no forgiveness in those bits. And then you can buy something like this that is a little bit more expensive. This was the cheapest flute bit that I could find, and I might look into something nicer, like a branded one or something later down the line. I don't know at this point, but I would say, yeah, definitely interesting. But there is both truth and lies in the whole thing. When you hear people talk about these bits, they're good, definitely. I feel like I could be definitely more rough with my work, and I didn't have to think as hard about what I was doing. But I also felt like, no, I did get a better result when I actually did what I know how to do and used my skill. So yeah, that's me saying the same thing a couple of times in different ways, which is always nice, because hopefully you guys don't misunderstand me. But anyway, that's the end of this video. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something. Like I said, I learned something. And yeah, stay awesome and cool, and go and build some guitar, do some routing, maybe try out one of these flush flute cut bits things. I got mine off of Amazon, so just search for flute bit and you'll find one. And yeah, have fun building guitars. Let me know what you're building, because it's always fun to hear what you guys are building. And I'll hopefully see you guys in the next video. Bye bye for now. Hey guys, a quick update to the video before we end here at the end. I was gonna do just a little bit more routing, just, you know, test this bit out a little bit extra, you know, just make this video, have it done, just play around, mess around, and I broke the bit immediately. So definitely it just caved in on itself and got bent. I wasn't pushing it particularly hard, I wasn't doing anything weird that I haven't done before, and it just gave up. So yeah, maybe those cheap bits on Amazon aren't that great. This is actually the first time this has happened to me. I've never had a bit be this crappy. So yeah, just wanted to put that in at the end. Stay awesome and cool, and I'll see you later.